And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. And for those that are here on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, thank you for joining us as always. This is welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. I'm so pleased to welcome Melanie Cohen all the way from Brooklyn, New York. And then Jamila, my co host. As always, a pleasure to join you here every week in your company and meet our wonderful new and exciting guests. I'm going to hand over to you to greet, and then we can do Melanie's bio afterwards. How's that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you, Anissa, for that lovely warm welcome, as you always do week after week. And, I look forward to Friday so that we can actually see each other and have a conversation. And welcome our lovely guest, Melanie. I've been looking forward to this all week. And it's just such a pleasure to meet you. And also to our audience at home, welcome and welcome back for all of our regulars. And let's just get into it, Anissa. I'm really looking forward to this week's topic.
So, Melanie, you're welcome to say hello and greet, and then we'll introduce your beautiful bio afterwards.
Good morning. Well, thank you, Anissa and Jamila, for having me here. I'm super excited to be with you.
Yes, and I mean, I'm wanting to reveal my co-host and my guest's age, and then like I'm thinking maybe it's not right or appropriate, but I just want to honor women that hold their own, that are in their version fives, in their 50s. For those that don't know what the version fives are, I just salute both of you because your energy is infectious, and it's really awesome to know that you are here with me and you are wanting to spread the word and make impact. So, without further ado, let me read a bit of what we're talking about here today. So, today is about the relationship between weight, health, wellness, and clutter. And I suppose we've all felt like clutter in our life is weighing us down quite heavily, right? We've all been there. But let's talk a bit about Melanie. After losing 50 pounds, she became a weight loss coach for a well known company. Over 20 years later, continues to help people lose weight. She focuses on the relationship between weight and clutter. I'm so intrigued. That's why I'm emphasizing clutter. Clutter comes in many forms, including physical, digital, and mental. She works with clients to eliminate the physical and mental clutter that gets in the way of their physical and mental health. She's an adult child of a former drug addict who sold pot and coke to pay for a lifestyle he could not afford, and a parent who is now a hoarder. Okay, it makes sense. The clutter, the hoarding. And her own experience in weight loss and clutter is firsthand and makes her uniquely qualified to help people in these areas. Thank you for joining Aisha and Shalene on our Instagram page. Please do engage. And if there's anything that screams at you, by all means, ask Melanie a question. So without further ado, Melanie, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. I love it. And I appreciate that you addressed clutter as something beyond just the stuff,
Mhm.
because I think that the most insidious clutter is really the mental clutter, all the self-limiting beliefs and the things that we say to ourselves that are not true, or the things that we say to ourselves that we would never say to our best friend. Because I know we all, are living in, a state often of thinking we're not enough, we're not good enough, and all the things. So my goal is to help people both with the physical clutter, whether it's paper or, the thingamajigs that my grandmother left me that are so special, or the artwork that my kids made me, you know, 25 years ago that somehow are important. And I guess we should talk about the relationship between weight and clutter so people really understand the
Yes.
two. I have been learning over time that this may not be necessarily a uniquely American problem, but that in the United States, clutter is a greater problem than it is in other places. There are both emotional reasons and physical reasons behind clutter affecting weight. And I'm just going to give the most basic one. If the kitchen is cluttered and a mess, we are not pulling out the cutting board and the sharp knife and the fruits and vegetables and chopping and dicing and slicing to create a healthy meal. Often we're just picking up the phone or pulling out the apps and ordering in. And we know that I don't care whether you're ordering in curry or Chinese food or pizza or anything else, we could make a healthy decision, but that clutter is getting in the way of us being able to make decisions that are in line with our goals and with our values, especially when we're looking at physical and mental health. So that's like a basic one, but I'll say one more thing about the relationship. For me, as someone who was formerly even heavier than that 50 pounds that I lost, when I am feeling stressed, the first thing I go to is food. It is such, it's like a painkiller, it's so delicious. And, if I'm feeling stressed, angry, tired, bored, depressed, all the things, I'm not going and reaching for, a beautiful salad. I'm like, cake, cookies, candy, potato chips, all the starch, all the sugar, all the fat, and clutter in all forms and in all stages can be stressful. Gets in the way of us being productive and happy and not overwhelmed by it. While my mother's a hoarder, I can be stressed out by a small pile of paper. And so I know that for me, eliminating the clutter is a way to eliminate the physical and mental stress created by it.
Yeah. Wow.
Did any of that resonate for you? Because I often tell my kids, well, my kids are already telling me now, Mommy, are you eating your feelings again?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. And it's like you described, it's not the healthy options.
Right. And I mean, the fact when kids understand the concept of like eating your feelings, I think it's like all over media, like there are books and, rom-com movies or TV shows, and like the guy breaks up with the girl and she's sitting on a couch crying with like a tub of ice cream and, a serving spoon. And so it's being fed to us that this is the response to an uncomfortable feeling or emotion. And it's great in the moment. We deserve to manage our feelings. Is food the right answer? Mostly not.
Yeah. And to your point about hoarding as well, I mean, it relates to me also, not so much as hoarding, but holding on to certain things. And I think for me, in my younger years, I do resonate with this because I would want to hold on to certain things and have that attachment. And that actually is a reflection of me not knowing me well enough, me not understanding who Jamila is on the inside. And so you need all of these other lifelines, I guess, to make you feel better, to make you feel more secure in your life.
100%. It's, we treat the things that were given to us by someone else that we loved like that person is in the object. And so often I try to remind my clients and remind myself that the memories are not in the things, the memories are within you. And it doesn't mean we'll go ahead and get rid of everything that your grandmother ever bought you, but hang on to the thing that has positive energy in it. Everything has energy. All of our things have energy, whether it's the mug or the computer in front of me or the photographs or paintings or whatever. All of those things have energy. And if something is giving you positive energy, if something just makes you smile when you see it or gives you joy when you use it, hang on to that thing. 100% hang on to that thing. But if something doesn't have that energy, let it go. It doesn't have a space in your home, in your sanctuary, if it's not giving you that positive energy.
No, absolutely. And Melanie, when I think of clutter, the first thing that comes to my mind is blockage. And you speaking about energy. So when we have that clutter in our space, whether it's in our physical space or within ourselves, we're limiting ourselves for that easy flow of energy to move through us and around us.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
I think the other thing about like the stuff, I think anybody who looks behind me and sees the paintings on the wall, pictures, whatever, I'm not a minimalist, but and I don't have the desire to be a minimalist. And I think sometimes people are afraid when they hear, oh, she's a weight loss and a clutter coach, oh no, she wants me to be a minimalist. No, I just want us to live in a way that is meaningful to us and, easier to operate in. And so these are things that give me positive energy. I could tell you a story about every one of the pictures there. Jamila, you have a beautiful book collection. I'm not about telling people to get rid of everything. At the end of the day, if our things are getting in the way of us living a meaningful life, then those are the things to get rid of. Do I work with people who want to be minimalists? Of course I do. I just know that like my mess is someone else's clean, and someone else's clean is mess to me, and it has to be values based. And how do you want your space to look and feel when you're living in it?
Yeah.
Melanie, I wanna come back to, because we're talking food, we're talking mental, we're talking
Hmm.
emotional. There's so many diverse aspects to this conversation and topic.
Yeah.
But if we can invite you to bring it back to your personal story, because when we hold on to the weight, I mean, I certainly have, I've got holding on to some weight here in the abdominal area in particular. And I know where that is coming from. Intuitively and instinctively, I know what the
Right.
root cause of that is. But tell us about your journey being 50 pounds heavier, and what was your call to adventure? When did you accept this quest to say no more holding on to this physical clutter?
So I'm going to take it a step back further so it's easier to understand the story. So I was a competitive gymnast growing up, very high level, training 20 to 30 hours a week. And I loved like flying through the air. Like I loved tumbling, I loved dancing, like I loved, doing the show stuff. But the toxic scrutiny over the scale was excessive. And
Yeah.
that that journey, I mean, these were the adults in my life. The adults in my life, I spent 20 to 30 hours a week on, and they would call you fatty, chubby. They treat you like you're, useless. You're not trying hard enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it taught me to have a very negative relationship with my body image and my body in
Mm-hmm.
general and how it felt and how it operated at a time where young girls, preteens and teens need to be treated better and learn to love their bodies. And this was happening when I was in the greatest shape of my life and the greatest shape of many people's lives because of the level of training. And I finally quit because like I knew that I deserved better than the way I was being treated. But I discovered I was an emotional eater. And when you're training 20, 30 hours a week, a little extra food isn't a problem. But I quickly gained weight. And then in college. And then after getting married and after my daughter. So that being 50 to 60 pounds overweight took a long
Mm-hmm.
time. It was very progressive to the point like I didn't even realize it. But I turned 30 and hit 200 pounds on the scale. And I was just like, this is not okay. And I'm not a tall woman. I was a gymnast, So that weight was a lot. And I finally made the decision that I wanted to be a better example to my daughters in terms of how I treated my body and how I treated myself. And I needed to come to terms with what I know a lot of people think that there's no such thing as a food addiction. I know for me, that's what it feels like. Because when faced by a cookie in my head, it's not a cookie. It's all the cookies. It's not take the ice cream out and put it in a bowl. It's just take the container because it feels so good. And what I recognized in that was that my food addiction was my father's drug addiction before me, which was my grandfather's
Yes.
gambling addiction. And my grandfather would be like, I'm not a gambler, I'm a player. But he lost like his business. He lost things. That's not playing, that's gambling. And so I understand that there's there's a high from gambling, there's a high from drugs, there's a high when you have like high sugar, high fat foods. And so I needed to learn how to lean on behaviors when I needed to manage my feelings that didn't make me feel worse in the end, whether that's exercise or calling a friend or writing in the journal or meditating, all the things that are good to our physical and to our mental. And that's when I started really making a difference in my life. But what I realize is all of that addiction is mental clutter. And my mother's space, my father's space isn't all that great either, but they've been divorced as long as I've been married, which is 30 years. So I think there's so much to be said for my letting go of using food as a way to manage my feelings and manage my emotions and lean into all of the other things because I want to live a long life, but I want to live a long, healthy life. I don't want to, I love my 50s, but I want to love my 60s and my 70s and my 80s. And my grandparents lived into I want to enjoy my 90s too. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I don't want to be a sad, depressed person. I really want to like embrace what comes later. And that means also being kind to the person that I was before all this happened.
That's key, I think, hey, because I mean, for me, I think listening to you, it's about moving out of that space of denial, because
Yeah.
you have to look at it for what it is. It's like you said, it is an addiction, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. But the key is to acknowledge it, to understand that this is my problem, this is my addiction, and how to face it. But what I want to ask you also is that, I mean, you spoke about you being a gymnast and you are accustomed to seeing yourself in a certain way. You're built and you must have been very muscular and slender and athletic and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, you're not that person anymore. How do you deal with that? How do you make sure that you're kind towards yourself when you decide that this is the change now that I want to make?
Well, I think it gets to identity. And, for 12 years of my life, my identity was gymnast, Melanie the gymnast, Melanie, her parents, pride and joy, state champion, regional champion, all of the, awards that go along with. So that when I quit gymnastics, I really didn't know who I was. I was 17 when I quit. And it was as if I wasn't a gymnast, I didn't have an identity. And it took me a really long time. I remember shortly before deciding to lose the weight, I recognize, in retrospect, I should say, that I thought that my weight is what I identified as, that it preceded everything else. I wasn't a mom, I was a fat mom. I hate using that word, but that's how I felt. I have to say it because that's how I felt. I wasn't a wife. I was a fat wife. I wasn't beautiful or all the things. I was a regional merchandise manager for a lingerie company. I wasn't a regional merchandise manager. I was a fat regional merchandise manager who didn't represent her brand well. I had to remember that my identity really isn't what you see. It's what you hear. It's the things that I say. It's the way I represent myself. And I think I had to like let go of the titles and say, I'm not those things. I am a strong woman. I'm a proud woman. I'm a capable woman. I'm an empowered woman. Once I wrapped my brain around that, things got easier. Things got easier.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a
It's very
cycle.
powerful.
It is powerful, Anissa, and the cycle of clutter and disposition, right? Because clutter tends to perpetuate itself. Mental overwhelm leads to physical neglect, doesn't it?
Yes.
And then physical clutter exacerbates a mental stress that you're going through. So breaking the cycle involves addressing both the internal and the external clutter.
Absolutely. Because the external affects the internal affects the external, and then, like you get into
Yes, yes.
this cycle. Yeah. I used to say about stress eating that, you know, if you're eating because of an emotion, and I'm going to take stress as an example, because stress is usually comes from there's a task I have to do. There's something I have to do. I have to take my mother to the doctor, or I have this project that I have to finish, or I have to show up for. And so if I choose to eat when all that stuff is going on, I'm not getting the stuff done. So the eating is making me feel badly about how I'm treating my body. And then I'm not getting the task done. I've just taken the stress from here to up here. And then chances are I'm going to get, like on that hamster wheel or gerbil wheel, whatever that is. And the less I do, the more I eat, the more I eat, the less I do. And it just creates so many. It's like the stress goes to anger. Like, I can't believe I did that to myself. What's wrong with me? Like, choosing food means that, like, there's something wrong with me, as opposed to I haven't figured out the right stress response yet.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is that there's constant, you're constantly dealing with your inner protagonist. It's like it's like push and pull all the time, and until such time, as you both alluded to it earlier on, you start to not shame that part of yourself, and you get to the root cause of why it's showing up, like you've just described. For those that have just joined on Instagram, we were just saying earlier on that whatever the addiction is, if it's food, there's another cause behind that. There's something underlying beneath that. For Melanie, it was her father's addiction with drugs, and then her mom hoarding. Certainly, for all of us, there is something that makes us go to, whether it is, I know people that go and buy lots of shopping, and then they don't need any of those clothing or things, and they haven't even used it, and the labels are still on. It's another form of clutter, because it's starting to solve, in inverted commas, solve for something at the surface level, but what's beneath there is sitting with the conditioning, the programming, the beliefs, the adaptations that one takes on because of all of those experiences. And one thing I know for sure, Melanie, and I'm sure you will confirm this for us, is that the narrative that we sit with, that clutter, just starts to accumulate and expand and expand. So I really want you to share with us this. Is it an epidemic of hoarding in the US, I would say? And where it's coming from, what is it connected to?
So I have so many great statistics, but they're specific to the United States. But I think, I definitely think this is a very Western issue. But one of the statistics that I love to give is that people wear 20% of their wardrobe 80% of the time. And so it may even be true for you. As soon as those jeans are out of the laundry, those are the jeans I want to wear. That blouse, as soon as it gets back from the dry cleaners, or, whatever. So I want you to think about your own wardrobe while we're saying that there's nothing wrong with us. It just means we've bought a lot of things that probably weren't the best thing. And for me, I went down 6 sizes when I lost my weight. I had to buy new clothing. But I did notice, and I thank you for bringing this up, that I maybe didn't need to shop as much as I did, because going down 1 size doesn't mean you need to replace the entire wardrobe. You just need to replace a few basics, because you're going to go down another size in the next month, or it may take 6 months, or there's no like real mathematical equation to I've lost X amount of pounds, so it's this many sizes. But I did find that, and I did have to come to terms with, wait a minute, you are just replacing the eating with shopping, slow down. So it's a consumerist kind of thing. Here in the US, the houses have increased in size, like by a third, if not double, in the last 50 years, but it doesn't stop people from buying things. Just because you have more space doesn't mean, oh, now I'm going to have, a clutter-free home. It's just, oh, I have more room for more, whatever the thing is that you like to purchase. and or collect, or all of the above. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think there is a high from the shopping, like we said before, about other things. And if we can find a way to release the things, it can feel like but it's like the connection to it, like we're lifting this weight off of our shoulders, or lifting the weight away from our eyes. All the
Mhm.
things that I see everywhere, if the cleaning is hanging over the Peloton bike and the clothing is there more often than we're on the Peloton bike. It's a message, about the clutter in our space. Yeah, it's I don't want to say it's kind of crazy. It's just kind of overwhelming when you
Yeah.
look at how how we can be so stuck on our stuff. We're so addicted to our stuff,
Yeah.
whatever the stuff is for you.
Yeah.
Mm.
What
Mm.
what
I
I like
want to
to do,
acknowledge.
what I
I
like to do
just
Sorry.
just on that is
Mhm,
whenever I decide to buy something new, even if it's one item or five items or whatever it is, I normally use okay, if it's one in, then one has to go out. Or if it's
yes,
five,
Yes.
yes, 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 yes.
and I realized this, you were talking about the attachment or the emotional, sentimental attachment that we have to actual physical things that might have belonged to, someone special, someone close to us. And, for a long time, I did that when my mom passed. I kept a few things, but it was just a few. And then recently, when my grand passed away, she lived with me. And we were so sad after her loss. And I kept all of her clothing and I kept, because it reminded me of who she was. And I
Mhm.
think about 6 months after she passed away, I had to move. And when I was moving, I looked at all the items and I realized that they're just physical things. Everything that reminded me about her was either ingrained in me, in the
Mhm.
lessons that she taught me and the experiences that she gave me. But these physical things were just laying there for 6 months, and it was warm clothing, it was scarves and jerseys and jackets, and at the time it was winter. And I thought, you know what, there's no greater respect that I could give to my granny than to donate that to someone who was needy of it.
Yes,
Someone who was going to get use out of it, somebody who was going
yes,
to be warm on a winter night, knowing that it had come from my granny. So I think when we start to think of it in that sense, it's easier
Mm.
to let go of, or it's easier to address the clutter in that sense.
yes. Your grandmother does not want you to feel weighed down by her things. Like,
Yeah,
like we need to remind ourselves that they wouldn't want us to be overwhelmed by their stuff.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
So, ladies, I see that Ronald has been very active, and this is clearly a topic near and dear to him. And Ronald is our regular, like a
Supporter.
cheerleader. I don't know even what one. Like he's always on, and he's always so passionately engaged. He says, learning late in life, the me in me. And then he also says, my wife is reclaiming her life after weight loss. She also
Mm,
wants to shed things, clutter. And then this is in response to, I suppose, your journey, Melanie. The athlete and dancer, martial artist still remained within. So there's resonance there. Addicted to sugar and flour. You are preaching. I must replay this for Deborah. Deborah is Ronald's wife. Well, that's no caption needed there. And then he says, whoa, we had a codependent relationship. And then my wife tries so hard to reach out to women who won't take it seriously. She had to replace her knees, mastectomy, stent. She has lost 171 pounds. New life, new perspective.
mm,
And then this last comment also, firstly, your wife, I need to just recognize and acknowledge there that That's
Mhm.
huge. And it takes courage. I'm sure Melanie can attest to this. It takes
Yeah.
great courage to step away from that version, that identity of oneself, and to rebirth someone new, and now wanting to serve others and say, let me bring you along this journey. So
Yeah.
please convey this to her, and she might be watching the replay anyway. The last comment he's put here is a relative needs a big house to house the exercise equipment that's never used. A pity. I'm looking at my kitchen and I'm seeing lots of stuff here, and I'm feeling the energy of this conversation making me want to go and do a stock take after this. So please tell us about that, Melanie. That
So,
last comment.
one of the reasons that my mother is a hoarder is from OCD. There's a strong connection there, which sounds counterintuitive. Someone with OCD should have a perfect space. The problem is that for
Yes.
so many of us, OCD or not, we think everything should be done all at once. Just, like take Saturday off and tear the place down and put it back together. And even if all we have is simple clutter, it's it's unreasonable and unfair to ourselves to make the assumption that that's the way it should be done. And so, I don't have the time on Saturday, it builds up. Oh, I have to wait until I have a whole day, and it builds up. Now I'm too tired and overwhelmed by it, I'll do it later, and then it becomes out of control. So no matter how big the clutter is for you, small steps. It's cliche, baby steps. I like to say,
Mm.
set a goal that is ridiculously simple. Like if I told you out loud what the goal is, you'd be like, that's not a goal. You could do it in 10 minutes. That's the perfect goal. Whether you say, I'm going to do one drawer or a section of a drawer or my desk. No, 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 one corner of my desk. If we just tackle it in little baby steps like that, we succeed. We pat ourselves on the back. We feel accomplished, more motivated to do more, and more confident that we can do more. Just even if it just starts with how many wooden spoons does one person need to own? Just one of those examples.
Jamila, what's your response to that?
Listen, I love my kitchen, hey, and my utensils as well. So I'd say as many wooden spoons as I want.
Well, and that's exactly it, is that one person's clutter is someone else's mess. I live in New York City. We don't have big kitchens. I have to make my kitchen streamlined and as clutter-free as possible because I have this much counter space on one side and that much counter space on the other. There's no working in a kitchen that has too much stuff. Yeah.
I mean, and you have to look at the practicality of it, right?
Yes.
The space that you're in. But seriously, I mean, I do resonate with this because Anissa, coming from a Muslim background, our lives revolve around hospitality and having lots of people and inviting people over for meals and all the rest of it. And coming from my background, when I was married, it was a huge family. So I had a lot of stuff. And when I got divorced, I divorced, I mean, I had nothing, literally nothing. So I started off with a little, but as I think it was Ronald who said bigger house, and Melanie, you said bigger house, you feel the need to fill the extra space,
Right.
I find this in my handbag as well. The bigger my handbag, the more I carry with me.
For some
And
people, the car is the clutter.
correct,
There's all that. Yeah. Hmm.
correct. I think so. We are all guilty of, of doing this in one sense or the other, and it's just different shapes and forms that it comes from. But like I said, I would fill the spaces up, and then I don't know whether you get to a certain point in your life, or your 4 point whatever, or your 5 point whatevers, and you realize that what is the need for all of this? I really don't need it, and it's about keeping your life simple. The simpler it is, and by adopting or implementing simplicity across all aspects of your life, I think that helps in decluttering
Yes, it
each
does.
aspect. So, there's a physical declutter, there's the mental declutter. I mean, or clutter, I should say. There's the spiritual clutter. What about
Yeah.
digital
Oh.
clutter?
I love to
Maybe
talk about.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of clients come to me, and the reality is that majority of my clients that have come to me are coming for a weight loss journey. People are looking for a weight loss coach, or they're looking for a clutter coach. They don't know that they need both. So I've had plenty of people come to me and say, I don't have clutter. My house is perfectly clean. And then we start talking about other things like the 8,000 unread emails, or, I don't know about you guys, but I have like,
What about the 30,000 photographs in your in your phone?
exactly. And you have that many because you have 12 versions of,
Correct.
because you've done a burst. Is this as different as this? Is as different as that? I think for me, my laptop is relatively new to me. And so it still is like clean and organized in terms of what's on the desktop. And digital clutter, like anything else, if I attack it a little bit at a time, I'm an unsubscribed from 10, emails. Do I need to be getting emails from the Gap or H&M? Like, I need to know that they have a coupon. No, because I hear they have a coupon and all of a sudden, let's go shopping, as opposed to, I need a new white shirt, or I need a new pair of boots. Like, let's go shopping when we need something, as opposed to inspired by the clutter of emails that are coming from retailers that need me to know we have 20% off Saturday only, you know? And so I feel very strongly about how pulling my phone out can be overwhelming, whether it's a 24-hour news cycle and we're constantly, we just went through an election, and daily I was getting text messages from candidates across the country, help us, help us, help us. And it's just like, enough is enough when it comes to how much it's almost like, I don't want to stress anybody out, but it's like our phone and our computer are almost like doing like this to us.
Yes.
And that's a lot. And it affects our psyche.
This digital clutter thing, when you said the emails, I went and checked. I'm sitting with 2,488 unread. I'm not going to deny it. But I want to talk about some of the other aspects, like we sign up not only for newsletters, but we sign up for training, or we download ebooks, or we get digital books, or whatever it is these downloads are that we think is going to do something for us. What is that connected to, Melanie? Is that just a vice? Are we plugging at something emotionally in that regard? Because we can be we might be learners from the cradle to the grave. That's one thing. But now you just have all the stuff. I've got ebooks I haven't touched, and training material, training programs that I've signed up for. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. Then I haven't even completed 100% of it.
So first of all, oh no, because I'm offering a free ebook to your listeners today. And I think you said a lot of valuable stuff, that like we all want to learn how to get better and to do better and to feel better. And so we're looking for the quick fix. But a book is not necessarily quick. Mine's like 13 pages, so it can be. But like how many, how many courses I've signed up for, or, maybe not finishing the book is okay if I got what I needed from the book,
Sure.
But I think I think it's really important to say most of us want to better ourselves in some way. So we're looking for the thing that is the right fit for us. And it may mean reading some emails that are later become less meaningful to us, or, the same with the books. And I have discovered something about myself, and that is, as much as I want to do everything digitally and not use more paper, but I am more efficient when I read something in my hands, whether I purchased it in a store, purchased it online, or printed it out myself. that I find greater clarity in doing that. I just have to figure out how, and then how do you manage that paper later? So again, it goes back to being values based, and I can't do it Anissa's way, and Jamila can't do it my way. We need to do it our own way, which means, trial and error. I hate trial and error as a statement. It's just like, you just keep trying, or you keep doing until you find the right fit for you, because that's when it's going to work.
And I think that's
So-
also overwhelm yourself, right? To break it down
Yeah.
like you into small little bite-sized chunks
Yes.
that you can do, so that you don't become overwhelmed and then you become despondent when you kind of fall off the wagon, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
And how do you encourage your clients who I mean, I'm sure that it's not just an upward motion of success, where one day they engage in all of this clutter and then the next day they're cured of themselves. I'm sure that you fall off quite a few, fall down, and how do you keep them motivated and encouraged to keep on that journey?
Well, I think it's important to set the standard at the beginning, and that is, this isn't a linear journey. There's nothing in life that's a linear journey. So if I think I'm just going to remove the clutter, remove the clutter, remove the clutter, remove the clutter, lose the weight, lose the weight, lose the weight, get better at life, get better at life, get better at life. If that's what I expect, I am going to feel like a failure. I have to set myself up in some way where I know I'm going to get rid of the clutter. I'm going to lose the weight. I am going to learn about how to live a more fulfilling life. And then it is less necessary to remotivate and re-inspire, because it is just the path that we already knew that we were going to be on. But when we start these journeys, even if you have a great coach who tells you it's not going to be linear, you have to be ready for the ups and downs, in the back of our heads, we're like, but it's going to be different for me. I am going to be the person that breaks that mold. I'm going to lose the weight like this. I'm going to get rid of the clutter like that. I'm going to better my life like that. I'm going to be, the one that's different. And we just have to be as realistic as possible. And I think, my approach to decluttering, whether it's physical, mental, digital, the calendar clutter, the to-do list, all of those things, that if I tackle the smaller one, I am going to feel more motivated to do the next one. And so, can I tell you about one of the decluttering strategies that we use in my world? It's a 30-day challenge. Okay. So, like, I'm not asking you to do the whole year. I'm just asking you to do a month. And it starts with releasing one item on the first day. Everybody can find something in their space they can let go of. And then we add one per day. So day 2, you get rid of 2 things, day 5, 5 things, day 9, 9 things, 12, 12 things. And it gives the ability to build momentum, because we also have 2, 3, and 4 items. If you keep doing it for an entire month, you will have released over 450 items. If I told you that we were starting with 450 items, so many people wouldn't even start, because they're like, I'm never going to find 450 items. And so, and even if you said, well, I'm going to give myself the weekends off, you're still getting rid of hundreds of things. Or maybe you said, I'm so busy with work, I don't want to do it during the week, I only do it on the weekends. We're still making incredible progress. So I'm just a firm believer in, make the goal as simple as possible, so that the motivation and inspiration is less likely to wane over time.
And Melanie, how do we extend that now onto relating it to mental clutter?
And that's I can't just go in and say, okay, I'm going to remove this from my mind, and now I'm going to remove that. One is, the less clutter that's in our space, the less mental clutter there's going to be. There's just less that we have to work through. If we are removing digital clutter in similar ways, that naturally is going to eliminate mental clutter. If I put less on my calendar, less on my to-do list, and I'm being more successful with that, that is removing mental clutter. So a lot of it, it's not as tangible, I can't necessarily touch it, And then if I'm looking to manage bigger clutter, I have to be willing to do the work. I have to be willing to either journal or talk, with a coach, or a therapist. I'm a firm believer in coaches are great and therapists are great. Sometimes we need both, because we attack it from different directions and move through it in different ways. But that doing the physical just makes the mental that much easier.
Mm. So you mentioned the book, but let's tell the audience that they're in for a beautiful gift. She is offering all of you a Kickstart ebook for free. You said 13 pages. Was there any significance to the number 13 for you? Or was
Oh
it
my God,
just
it's so funny. In all fairness, I can't remember if it's 12 or 14, but I will tell you I have a thing about the number 13. I was born on Friday the 13th. And so a lot of people say, oh, well, then, that's like being born on Halloween. We know you're a little weird. Um, but I will also say I have a special thing about the number 4, and 1 + 3 = 4. So I actually have several tattoos that have the number 13 in them, just kind of like honoring the fact that that number is kind of cool. So yeah, it's interesting that you caught me on that I threw the 13 in there. It's almost like 13 just rolls off my tongue in incredible ways. Yeah.
Well, when is your birthday? Which month is your birthday?
March. So I am fully a
Oh,
Pisces.
wow.
I
So I'm
love,
the
I love to
13th of
give.
Feb,
Oh,
but my son is the 13th of March. There you go. So 13 was an important number to me. That's why I picked up on the number 13. I
oh
wanted
my
to
God, I
know why
love
is it
that.
important.
I love that. I believe so strongly in the power of numerology and numbers and the role that they play in our lives, energy, and all the things. Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you just to share what is the content in this ebook and how will it serve the audience should they, take up this beautiful, more digital, not clutter. What are we
Sure.
going to call it? We're not going to call it digital clutter today. Digital declutter because it's a tool to help you do so. So let's call it a declutter
Exactly.
tool.
That was perfect. I love it. I discuss the relationship between weight and clutter, go, a little deeper into it in a few ways. Talk about how decluttering your space can help. We talk specifically about the kitchen clutter because I feel like if someone's coming to me on a weight loss journey, they're also, while they're going to want to clear the clutter, they're going to want to lose the weight. And that's one of the spaces that affects our weight loss, weight gain, weight management journeys in life. So that's a really good place to start. Although every single space in our home, I can tie back to how that affects our weight. And then I talk about what is mental clutter, how it gets in our way, and then strategies for removing the mental clutter.
Hmm. Amazing. I mean, I'm certainly going to use it. I will use it because I'm looking all around me
Yay.
and I'm already feeling now that you've created awareness about it, because this is the other thing, is that if we don't have the awareness of it, we'll be blinded by it. And we'll just continue the perpetual cycle of adding and adding and adding. So I want
Yeah.
to just say thank you for the gift of creating the awareness for us. And I know the book, the Unclutter ebook, is going to be very, very valuable for all of us.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much for that, Melanie. So on the topic of mental clutter, when I think about that, I think about not having any clarity in my
Yes.
mind
Mm.
space, right?
Hmm.
Tell us or share with us about the effects of mindfulness and meditation and how that could impact on us addressing mental clutter.
I love that. I for years and years and years and years and years thought that I would never be good, quote unquote, at meditating. And I can't because my mind is always wandering and I'm always distracted. And I could be meditating and then all of a sudden I jump up to go do something because I started thinking of something. And so one was like being okay with like not being perfect at meditating, also knowing that I need guided meditation. as a way to be more successful with it. I actually do a 5-minute meditation on the perfect day, taking us from, waking up without the alarm to, the end of the day and the satisfaction of all the things that we had done to bring joy into our space. And so I think it is both about utilizing it to clear out the mental clutter, but also to bring all of the thoughts and emotions in that will support us while we're removing the mental clutter. I just love creating a space in my mind that looks like the beautiful things that I see. Like I want meditation to feel like sitting under, a weeping willow or a banyan tree, shaded from the sun. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that sounds very woo-woo. But no, it's one of the reasons why I have art in my space. Sometimes meditation is just sitting in a chair, and well, my favorite
Yeah.
painting is in my living room that's behind, and I can just sit there. It's a young Polynesian girl stringing a lei. It's a beautiful brown background. Her dress is a beautiful red. Her skin is a beautiful caramel color. The lei that she's making is orange flowers. I can just sit there and look at that. That is meditation.
It
It
is.
doesn't
It
have
is.
to.
Right?
I'm sorry.
And acid and practicing gratitude would be a big one as
Mm,
well, wouldn't it?
But I am grateful we found that painting. Like, it could be the simple things. I do a 3
Yeah.
things that you're grateful for. People often encourage to do it at night. I know I'm not going to do it at night. I'm like, get to bed, get to bed. So I do it in the morning in reflection of the day before and helping to set the standard, not to set the standard, but to set the emotion of the day by finding something that I'm grateful, which, I promise you tomorrow morning when I write down my 3 things, I will have been grateful for this time together.
And Melanie, when I think about clutter, I think about just being disorganized.
Yeah.
And that if I'm thinking of myself in that way, it brings me down. So would something like positive affirmations help with bringing up my confidence levels and help me
course.
to understand myself a bit more, so that when I'm taking those attempting those tasks, it makes it that little bit easier for me to be able to let go possibly of the things that don't serve me?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. The reason I call myself a weight loss and declutter coach is that I don't want to call myself an organizational coach, because I think so many of us have tried to reorganize the same space over and over and over again. If I can't keep
Yes.
it organized, it probably means there's too much stuff. Like I haven't decluttered enough, because at the end of the day, after I've decluttered, I may not even need to do any organizing. I have already set the patterns or the bones, the structure of what organization is going to look like. And I got rid of enough stuff. I released enough stuff that in my space, I find comfort and feel organized, despite the fact that I didn't do any organizing.
Mm, mm. Melanie, I wanna change direction
Yeah.
a little bit. We in our wrap-up stage, we have about 7 minutes left. But let's talk about relationship declutter.
You both did that, right?
Yes, yes, we did.
I didn't lose 50 pounds. I lost 200 pounds. Or actually, better to say, I threw away that weight.
But no, but Melanie, not only romantic relationships. I'm talking any type of relationship that no
Right.
longer serves, that we hold on to. Ronald spoke about codependent relationship earlier on.
Yeah.
That's clutter, right?
Yeah.
So how do we release ourselves from whether it's codependent, toxic, narcissistic relationships? What is the clutter in relationships? And if you can give us some practical examples, other
Oh,
than the
sure.
labels, which I also hate. I hate these labels because, it's not, it's really just pointing a finger. But how do we
Right.
release the clutter?
Well, I think we all have a relationship with someone where you always have to reach out first. or you're the one that has to organize the get together, and you're always the one to text, email, or call afterwards to say that was a lovely day. I'm so happy we did that. If I have to do all the work, then maybe that person doesn't have space in my life. And I think there are times where things just kind of like, um, they just dissipate or whatever on their own.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of mental clutter with, you know what, you don't serve my life very well. Like if I were to tell you, you know what, Jamila, I don't think we should be friends anymore because I'm putting in all the time and energy and you're not. Um, but there's also all the other things that you addressed, Anissa, and it is, I may be hurt by this person.
Mm.
And how I approach them is how I, either make it work or not work. Like if someone's making me feel badly, I don't want to accuse them and wag my finger and shake my head or talk to them with my arms crossed. I need to be able to say, when you do that, it makes me feel. When you do that, that hurts me. If that person is someone worth keeping around, they will say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that. As
Sure.
opposed to the other way around, like, you make me feel like, there's a bunch of curse
Mm.
words I'd like to say in there. I live in New York City, so they're very natural to me, but I'm not going to do that here today. And so really to ask yourself the question, is this person adding to my life or are they taking away from my life? Because if they're
Mm.
taking away, I have to let them know. And if they're not responsive to it, then it may be time to let that person go.
Yeah, and the same way with work relationships. Is this company or this environment no
Right.
longer serving me? Because I think we mentioned in the start of the segment, your environment is also that dictates what certain clutter is. So if you're sitting in a company that is misaligned to your value system and it's eating at your soul, why
Yeah.
stay?
Right. Because we feel
Mm.
stuck. And I think that that's where mental clutter plays a role. If I'm
Mm.
not working to get out of that space, I may think this is the best I can do.
Mm.
So we have these self-limiting beliefs because the environment that we're in isn't supporting us, and it just makes us think maybe I'm not worth bigger and better. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not capable of bigger and better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
Melanie, just my last question to you is really
Yeah.
the clutter. Is it, if we talk environments, is it also then connected to all of our life structures? Because we
Yeah.
spoke physical, we spoke mental, emotional, but then if we're looking at our life structures, financial could be clutter. There's clutter there. Health and well-being. We've addressed that. Can you share with us maybe what we've missed or not spoken about that are clutter environments or areas or categories?
You've been so good at touching parts of clutter that I didn't get to in the conversation. So, interestingly enough, in speaking with my own mentor, I became more capable of understanding financial clutter. My father wanted to live a certain lifestyle. He's a scientist. Being a scientist wasn't, financing that kind of lifestyle. So he sold drugs. And so I think in my head for so many years, you will never be enough, there'll never be enough money, et cetera, and created. And I grew up while my parents were a little bit on the unhealthy, mentally side.
Yeah.
I lived a very lovely lifestyle, went to private school. I did gymnastics. I went to sleepaway camp. I had a sweet 16. Like I had all the things. But it was coming from like severe mental clutter. My grandfather was a gambler. Same thing. The financial clutter was strong in the man,
Mm.
and I stayed with the company for 20 years. That really made me believe that I would never be able to do anything better than I was doing with them and going out on my own. I'm not a millionaire yet. But what I do
Yes.
know is that I'm making my own money. And so it's not someone else's clutter. It's my money. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I mean, and if we talk about over shopping, that creates financial clutter. How many credit cards do you have? Financial clutter. You know, how in debt are you in, you know, owning your phone, your car, or whatever? That's financial clutter. So you nailed it,
Mm.
Anissa. You really did.
Thank you. I mean, from my side, this has been really refreshing and insightful and introspective, I must add, because I'm going to go and take mental stock. I'm going to download the ebook. I want to thank you for your vulnerability, for sharing as openly as you have about your family dynamics. That takes courage. It's not easy to share that, but when we release the shame clutter that's connected to that, we're okay with, you know, telling the world so that others can follow suit and take heed and say, let's use it to in pursuit of our purpose instead, which is what you've done. So hats
Thank
off
you.
to you, Melanie.
Thank
That's all
you
from
so
me
much.
on my side. Do stay on. Before we end the live, we normally just have a short debrief. So Jamila, over to you just to acknowledge and say your goodbyes.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for being so raw and real and vulnerable and sharing with us so openly. It certainly is going to be so beneficial for Anissa and I know, because it helps us to think more clearly about our lifestyle choices. And
Mm,
yeah, and so I'm sure I speak for the audience as well. And I think just one parting thing is for me, I think to adopt quality over quantity and
mm,
use that in every aspect of our lives. I think that's a great way of helping us to declutter and to keep everything
love that.
simplistic, and to help us move forward with a lot more ease and energy flow within the systems. But
Absolutely.
like I said, thank you so much for this extremely insightful topic, and also
Mm,
just for bringing attention to the fact that so many people do go through this, and we shouldn't
mm,
see this as something that, oh, just a select few suffer with. We all, in some way or the other, deal with having clutter in our lives. And like you said, there's so many different aspects of it. It's not just something that's physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's digital, and all the rest of it. So thank you so much for giving us such meaningful and helpful information.
Thank you
the
for
last
giving me
word
the
is to you,
space.
Melanie.
Yeah.
Last word to you, Melanie, in terms of what's your last golden nugget. And maybe potentially we could invite you to actually talk about the different segments of clutter and make it more, specialized. And what we did do with another guest, which is a money wealth coach, is we invited her to bring her clients to speak about their experience. We'd like to extend that to you as well, because then we're having practical, real life examples of lived experiences, people going through a journey with you, and we will leave that on the table for you to decide. But last words to you, and then we're going to close out.
I said it before, I'll say it again. Everything in ridiculously simple steps. It doesn't matter whether it's decluttering or weight loss or other personal change. If we are going to transform ourselves, we have to do it in ridiculously simple ways, one baby step at a time.
Mm. On that note, thank you for those that joined us on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. We'll see you again next week, same time. We'll do this again. And thank you for Ronald for your vulnerability and sharing so openly as well. Lots of love to your wife. And until next time, we'll see you next week. Thank you.